This is Blues U. Coming up, reflections on a big shock for Blues, including the thoughts of luckless goalkeeper Maik Taylor, and Colin Tatham fields your questions. Hello and welcome to this week's Blues U. I'm Andy Walker and I'm joined today by Colin Tatham, where I reflect on something of a shock for Blues at Eastlands. Welcome, Colin.
Joe.
Well, Colin, you headed up to the blue half of Manchester on Sunday. Obviously 5-1 it ended, bearing in mind that Blues had only conceded more than 3 on 3 occasions this season. Is it safe to say it was something of a freak result?
I think it was. It's wrong to say it was coming because, historically this season Birmingham have not been on the end of a real good drubbing. There was not much in the game for 38 minutes, and then there was that crazy spell, 4 goals in 5 minutes, and then second half Birmingham came out, were quite strong, but conceded some very bad goals, a couple of bad goals to make it 5-1. And I think it was a sobering experience, especially for the two centre-halves, against that sort of attacking lineup that Manchester City possess when they're on song, and if you're not quite right, then that can happen.
And you've got to feel sorry for Maik Taylor, obviously. Hasn't played a league game all season other than Man City, which he did very well in that, and arguably should have kept his place maybe after that. Then to go and concede 5. Was he at fault for any of the goals?
I don't think so. Maybe the third one, he sort of came out a little bit rashly to try to close down Craig Bellamy, which gave him the angle to pass it in for Adebayor. But other than that, I wouldn't say so. I think in front of him the defence were at times at 6s and 7s, they were struggling to cope with the movement of Manchester City's front players, and he actually made some 2 or 3 good saves as well.
Well, fortunately we had the chance to catch up with Maik Taylor after that 5-1 defeat, and he said that Blues need to learn from their mistakes all across the team.
It's just important that we learn from it, and we've got a in terms of a back line, two young centre halves who will learn from it, and it's important that they do, and we just caught them on a day where as soon as they got the sniff in front, and in terms of sharpness and everything else, and I'm not saying anyone run away from Cara like Bellamy did today. It was just unbelievable. So you just have to take it on the chin, and it's important that we bounce back with a hand on next week.
Well, that's the thoughts of Maik Taylor, and now it's time to hear some of your thoughts for Colin. First up, Colin, is more of a statement and a question from somebody who calls themselves Zorro Vero, who goes on to point out that this season Blues' defence has been their Goliath. Mm-hmm. And while in Goliath's case it was a slingshot that was his weakness, in Blues' case it's the long ball. What's your thoughts on that? Interesting.
I wouldn't say teams are deliberately trying to play a long ball against Birmingham to unhinge them. I don't think that's the case at all. In fact, the 5th goal on Sunday, Scott Dan just watched one sail over his head, but that was an individual misjudgment. I think what teams are trying to do are get some movement and get down the sides of the centre halves to sort of take advantage of the mobility aspects. But if teams were playing long balls into the heart of the Birmingham defence, they could deal with that all day, especially with Ridgewellers coming round as well to support the centre halves in the air.
In fairness to Zorro Vera, it's not a complete moan, because they do go on to say, having said all that, I still think we've had a marvellous season, and congratulations to all concerned. So he's slightly happy at least. Next, this is actually a question. It comes from Terry Velante, who says, Colin, do you have any insider knowledge as regards to a settlement date on outstanding issues with David Sullivan and Crow, or are we in for protracted legal proceedings?
Yeah, I think as we've seen, the High Court writ has been issued by Carson against the previous owners for around about £7 million, and there's all sorts of little nuances in that. I think this, unless they settle out of court, this could drag on for a year, maybe 2 years. That's the way of things, and David Sullivan says he's going to make counterclaims, so it could get quite messy. I think the sensible thing to do would be to sit around a table and come to an agreement to stop this lengthy process. But whether that happens, that remains to be seen, because they are quite stubborn and quite demanding characters involved, and obviously neither side at the moment want to back down.
Okay, Connie, thanks for that. Well, next up for Blues is the visit of Hull City to St Andrews on Saturday. And it'll be a chance to put the final nail in the coffin for the Tigers when it comes to their Premier League status.
Yeah, they've been carrying the look of pretty much a relegated, haunted side for a long time now. and losing 4-1 at home to Burnley, that was a real hammer blow for them. And I think the worst result for Hull was Birmingham losing 5-1 at Manchester City as well, because you can take it as read that Birmingham will be determined to put on a show and win the game, because there's a lot of hurt pride down at St Andrews right at the moment.
Okay, thanks for joining us, Colin. And thank you for watching. And be sure to log on the same time next week, where we'll be reflecting on that visit of the Tigers to St Andrews. Thanks, and we'll see you then.